Now, why Ayurveda is a big question. While there are many medical knowledge systems worldwide, and each medical knowledge system has its own strengths and weaknesses, we personally believe the traditional knowledge systems like Ayurveda, Siddha, and other such, like Chinese medicine, we've got many traditional knowledge systems. They have a huge role to play in taking care of health and well-being on a long-term basis, without creating too much of adverse results. Western medicine does a great job of looking after health in specific situations, and more often than not in emergency and other such critical situations. But in terms of long-term well-being with minimal adverse effects, Ayurveda is probably far ahead, is definitely far ahead, along with some of the other traditional medical knowledge systems. So, our thought process is that, and then this is again a reason for Vaidyagrama, we believe that we need to create a working Ayurveda model aligned with nature, which can be replicated as a healing model in communities across India and probably across the world, for that can contribute significantly to lowering healthcare costs worldwide. Healthcare costs are spiraling
out of control.
And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we get into a vicious cycle of popping pills once we start getting disease, instead of recognizing that we cannot transfer the onus of responsibility of our healing and well-being onto external agencies like the pills. Ayurveda says the onus of responsibility lies within us in terms of the way we eat, the way we rest, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we move, the way we flow, the way we minimize the stress in our lives. No pill can be a substitute for this. So Ayurveda looks at medicines and treatments as a support which do very well when we take the responsibility. Now, in the modern world, the tendency is to shift the responsibility onto external agencies, which we think is detrimental and short-term. If we are truly concerned about long-term well-being, higher quality of life, a better happiness index, then we have to be responsible for it. And that is where Ayurveda has a big role to play in the coming years, especially because our teachers original teachers have very clearly said, Gramya Vasa Kritam Asukham, the distress and disease caused by community living. To address this, the teachers wrote down Ayurveda, wrote down the principles of Ayurveda, which they go on to say these principles are eternal. They are time tested and they are eternal. So don't worry about applying these principles in any time and space as long as you internalize them very well.
Wonderful. So let's now come to the present day in a post-COVID world. Maybe I should ask one question before that regarding Ayurveda. Now, what I have seen is many of my friends who are, now long-term practitioners of Ayurveda, they come to one of these ashrams, 𝗣𝗂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝘀, as if you want, and they'll be 1, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, they do that thing. And then they have told me, and my personal experience also is the same, that first 3 months you really don't find any difference, but then the difference kicks in. You are not getting fatigued anymore. Some muscle movements which used to be a problem don't happen anymore. Your tendonitis, tendons, ligaments, all these things are much more smooth. So typically when we are doing our formalities of checking out, we usually get some medication to take for the next few months or something like that. Then you usually ask us to come back after a certain time. Now, this is sort of like a recharging, re-energizing process. Do you think this is true for almost all patients, or is it a patient-to-patient thing? When you say, come back after X, some 1 year, 3 year, whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
It is primarily individual based, and a lot depends, like I said, on how well the individual is able to follow at least some of the advice when they go back home on a more continual basis. But having said that, our texts also tell that there are certain categories of people who will probably need to take the treatment every year. Like for example, those days it was said the minister, the one who serves the king, because the minister is on duty 24 hours. Whenever the king beckons, the minister has to be there. So like this, they've given examples. The business person, the one who's creating abundance, has to be always available, or tends to be always available, and hence it literally signifies those whose time does not belong to them, whereby they are not able to take care of themselves, they eat at wrong times, they sleep at wrong times. Such people, it is good for them to take a break for a month or so and go through a cleansing process and to a certain extent reset the system. So for most individuals this is true. Then there are people with health issues who come for Ayurveda, different kinds of health issues, arthritis, paralysis, digestive disorders, reproductive health disorders, lung disorders, cardiac disorders, cancers. People come for addressing different kinds of issues, some of them acute, some of them chronic. Depending on the individual who has this condition, some of them may be required to come back even as soon as 6 months. Some may be required to come back every year for several years at a stretch. And all of this is depending on the individual as well as the condition. So, Ayurveda is, while we say that many times we experience the benefit later than earlier, it is also a fact that this happens because the system has been mostly chemicalized over the years. The food we eat, the medicines we consume, the air we breathe, from all angles, the whole system has been chemically compromised. And hence, when you are going through an Ayurveda treatment process, or where you are trying to engage in a paradigm shift to more natural and holistic and a better life, initially the system takes time because there has to be a cleansing of this chemicalization before the Ayurveda herbs can work more effectively. Once there is a more awareful living, where we eat with awareness, live with awareness, then we find that the Ayurveda medicines work as effectively and as quickly as any other medicine for the primary healthcare issues like fever, cold, cough, diarrhea, dysentery, and it really doesn't require any kind of hospitalization unless it um, goes beyond a particular critical point. So, in talking of COVID, we are sitting in a post-COVID
Yes, yes.
time, and
Right.
we do realize that COVID has wreaked havoc globally, but we have also had the experience of many patients taking Ayurveda treatment for mild to moderate conditions of COVID and responding extremely well without having to take any kind of chemical medicine or without needing oxygen support or ventilator support. So it is possible. It is possible that Ayurveda can play a huge role if it is mainstreamed. Mainstreaming of authentic Ayurveda, where it becomes an integral part of a nation's health policy, is required, I think, because it is only systems like Ayurveda and Siddha and others that can give a long-term perspective to health and well-being. If we are overly dependent on allopathy or Western medicine, we are always going to have short-term perspectives.
Now, so COVID is morphing itself in the sense that the variants are, some other things and things like that. So the way I see it is, there is a way that if Ayurveda can help make your body to have stronger antibodies, I don't know if that's the right word, but immunity, build up the immunity, so that it can take some of these things and let the natural body's own armor to take care of it. So, do you see something like that happening? Because now people are saying every 6 months you're going to have a vaccine shot. In Ayurveda, I'm not sure how do you look at it? First preventive and then afterwards palliative, basically to try and make the thing to be better equipped to handle it. Your thoughts?
Well, in Ayurveda, we are very clear the name of the condition does not matter. Ultimately, it still boils down to Vata, Pitta, Kapha, the fundamental principles, the three doshas, and which of them are aggravated or depleted, leading to a particular condition being exaggerated in the system or leaving the system in an asymptomatic way. It all depends on the level of the dosha aggravation. So that is why Ayurveda is actually able to work. Many Ayurveda Vaidyas have actually worked with COVID patients across the country and had good results.
So, when there is a variant, like for instance now, Omicron is, it's supposed to be very contagious. However, it's not that bad in the sense the effects are a little mild. You can kind of sit at home and, work it out. But we don't know what the next surprise is going to happen. From an Ayurvedic point of view, is there a prophylactic? For example, I've been told, and doctor, you are the doctor, I am the novice here, so feel free to correct me. One of the things that a friend of mine told, he's actually an allopathic doctor, but he believes that Ayurveda has a solution. He told me to use ashwagandha and boil it in milk in the morning and then cool it down. Have half of it in the morning and half of it in the afternoon. And the same cool milk, let it just stay there, let it soak in. This is just something that he said. Is there something like this, like a palliative that Ayurveda can suggest to people, saying that we don't know what you're going to get next. However, we believe that this will help you face it well. Any thoughts on that?
So, again, we have to come back to the principles of Ayurveda. While there have been many similar herbs that have been widely promoted, especially in these COVID times, there has been ashwagandha, there has been ginger, there has been turmeric, there has been coriander, multiple herbs and home remedies that have been promoted, we should remember one principle that herbal off the shelf is herbal. Chawanaprash bought off the shelf is herbal. Chawanaprash prescribed by a Vaidya, taking into consideration all the variables that affect you, is Ayurveda. So Chawanaprash can be herbal, Chawanaprash can be Ayurveda. Ashwagandha can be herbal, Ashwagandha when prescribed in your specific context is Ayurveda. Because in Ayurveda, there is no one herb that works across the entire population. Every one of us is different, every one of us is unique. And it is not just a herb that enables the creation of a better internal environment. So what does Ayurveda do? It creates an internal environment which is not conducive for any kind of microorganism to become destructive. So even if there is any microorganism or any virus or anything, it moves through the system harmlessly. And even if we become positive, the extent of damage is minimized because of this internal environment which is very resilient. So Ayurveda is always focusing on every individual having a resilient environment through a combination of customized herbs and definitely diet and lifestyle. The Gita will use yuktahara vihara, the appropriate diet and lifestyle. Ayurveda will use mitahara vihara, again appropriate diet and lifestyle. Everything definitely is rooted in appropriate or inappropriate diet and lifestyle. There can be any number of viruses, bacteria, anything out there. But if my internal environment is resilient, I will not be unduly adversely impacted by what I am infected with, if I get infected.
Wonderful, Dr. Ramkumar, and again, viewers, I can't say enough good things about Vaidyagrama. It has been an experience that I hope to again come back very soon with my family to enjoy. And all I can tell you is that sometimes you need to get back to the nature. I mean, this is just right in the sense of being placed. It's just 5 or 6 kilometers from the national highway. So it's close enough to civilization. At the same time, it is far enough removed that you actually are going back to the nature. There is total tranquility. As we start coming to this place, you feel that tranquility, that peace. You can hopefully find your inner peace also, and also get healed with some of your long-standing ailments. Thanks for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe. And Dr. Ramkumar, thank you very much for taking time out from your busy schedule to talk to us.
It was a pleasure, and yes, I would invite more people to come and participate in the healing process, and also see Vaidyagrama as part of a larger community healing model. We have spoken only about the Vaidyagrama, the hospital, but there is a larger community around Vaidyagrama with which we are working, which actually contributes significantly to the healing process, whether it is in terms of the people from the surrounding villages who are supporting all the patients who work here. There's a whole model that is being built, because unless the surrounding villages and villagers are also healthy, happy, living Ayurveda, we will not get the entire healing benefit in any healing space. So yes, I think we will leave that conversation for another day. But it was a pleasure talking to you, and look forward to seeing you in Vaidyagrama for a longer period sometime in the near future.
Looking forward to it, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.